it's Annabelle Beckwith from Yara Journeys here again with another Beanbag Talk. Once again today I'm sharing with you a model, a theory that has had a profound effect on me in the past. It was one of these things that when I came across this the first time I thought, oh my word, it shed light on a lot of working relationships that I had and a lot of personal relationships that I had and just the way I was interacting with people. It's transactional analysis. And it was developed by an American psychologist called Eric Berne. Now I've got a couple of illustrations to help me make the point here today. So Eric Berne points out that in any given moment, in any interaction, we are in one of three ego states. And here they are. So up at the top we have the parent ego state. In the middle here we've got the adult. And at the bottom here, we've got the child. Now, as you can see, it's not just as straightforward as that, because within the parent arena, there are actually two types of parent, and I think you can probably guess what they are just by looking at my illustrations here. Over here, we have the critical parent. Over here, struggles to get out of Beanbag. We have the nurturing. The nurturing parent. Now, as far as the children go, over here we've got the free child. I'll talk through what these all are in a moment, but we have the free child. And here we've got two other children, just hiding behind my knees there. We have the compliant child. And we have the rebellious child. Okay, so what does all this mean? Right, well, let's start from the top. And there's a reason why some of these are red and blue. Our parent behaviours will tend to be learned behaviours. We will have picked up clues from our parents, our guardians, from adult figures in our lives, and we will often tend to take on those characteristics. Now, in an interaction, sometimes, perhaps particularly when we are a little bit discomforted, when we're a little bit stressed or something, we might have a particular response to a situation. It might be the critical parent, somebody who's like telling you off, perhaps making you feel small, making you feel like you're a little bit useless and so forth. Or we might have the nurturing parent. Now, this is actually a reasonably positive behaviour, the nurturing parent. So by way of example, let's imagine that somebody starts with an adult question, and by adult we just mean very, very neutral. There's nothing in it in terms of emotion or anything else. Somebody might ask a colleague, oh, where was that meeting this morning? Now, fairly straightforward question. The adult response to that might be, oh, it's in the boardroom. The critical parent response might be to roll your eyes and go, did you not take a note of that in the last meeting? God, you just don't bother, do you? You have to just ask somebody else all the time. You know, we'll take some responsibility. Now, that might seem a little bit heavy-handed. It might be that they don't actually say all of that. They might just go, oh, it's in the boardroom. And something in their tone of voice conveys that critical parent. To the same question, a nurturing parent response might be, oh, it's in the boardroom. Do you want me to stop by and pick you up before we go? Now, that might be appropriate if the person is new, doesn't really know their surroundings, doesn't know the way to the boardroom, etc., etc. The nurturing parent is going to be an appropriate response. Be aware, though, that the nurturing parent, although it's by and large a positive behaviour, sometimes it can just become a bit overwhelming. It can be a bit claustrophobic, like a warm, furry blanket. Sometimes it just gets too hot and you want to throw it off. So a positive behaviour, but too much nurturing, can make people feel a little bit too dependent. They're relying on you as the parent figure. If you find yourself doing that in a workplace situation, it might not be working to your advantage all of the time. So there we have the parent behaviours. As I've mentioned, the adult behaviour is perfectly neutral. Again, this is a learned behaviour. And this is perhaps the one that's the most difficult to stick to, because if somebody, let's imagine that interaction continued. So somebody says, where's that meeting? Oh, did you not listen last time? It's in the boardroom. Now, to take an adult response means remaining neutral, just going, oh, thanks very much, I'll see you there. it's likely that the person might think, "Cool, that's a bit rude" by way of a response, and they might be pushed into behaving in a similarly critical parent way, responding in a way that's a bit more emotive, a bit more emotional, and which perhaps isn't quite so positive. They might veer off into one of the child behaviours here. Now, let's start with the slightly more positive. Over here we've got the free child. This is the fun-loving child. Now, in the context of the workplace, this could mean just having a bit of a laugh with your colleagues, having a bit of a banter, the sort of things that make that make the workplace a pleasant environment. Somebody brings in cakes when it's somebody's birthday, this sort of thing. It's fun. There are going to be times, of course, where things are perhaps more serious, where the woohoo, the free child, the joking in response to a question and so forth, might not be the most appropriate response. Inappropriate humour, I think we've all been there, haven't we, where we've said something, we think it's funny, nobody else laughs. Our attempt to be the free child has not worked out well in that moment. And let's look at the other two children here. We might have the compliant child. Again, this is often in response to a critical parent, sometimes in response to a nurturing parent, but this is the mode of behaviour where you go, "Oh, okay, sorry, yes, right, well, I'll check next time to find out where the meeting is." You suddenly become submissive and apologetic for the thing that you've done, or the thing that the other person has said that you've done, or whatever it happens to be. Or we have the rebellious child. And I think, the clue's in the title here, folks. It's a bit like the teenagers on, well, whatever. So you can see that the child form of behaviour can often be triggered by the parent behaviour. So again, just focusing on that initial example of, "Oh, where's that meeting this morning? Did you not listen last time? It's in the boardroom." "Well, there's no need to be quite so rude about it. I only asked." Or the response might be, "Oh yeah, sorry, I'll check next time." Or it could be a free child. "Oh, who cares anyway? These meetings are always really boring, aren't they? Why we bother to go, I don't know." The point is this. These are, in most circumstances, these are not helpful behaviours. The two in blue there, the free child and the nurturing parent, they're okay. They're absolutely fine within their context, but watch out, because there will be a context where they're not quite so appropriate. The adult response is the learned response, and this, my friends, is the most difficult one, because often when we're faced with somebody being rude to us, or being a bit cheeky, or just being very submissive, it can kind of almost push us instinctively into an unhelpful behaviour. One of the things that I found particularly useful when trying to be an adult in any given situation is to stop, breathe, think and consider my response to whatever it is that they've said, but also to listen to the content of what they have said and not the tone of voice, because often the emotion will be conveyed in the tone of voice. So even if this person's going, "Did you not listen? It's in the boardroom." They are telling you it's in the boardroom. You could still say, "Oh, right, thanks very much, I'll see you there." If you can retain this adult ground in the face of any conflict, there's less likelihood that these people will continue in these roles. There's nowhere for them to go, because you're not triggering them by stepping into the role that they require. Just to give you another personal example, my daughter's 18, and still have to chivvy her along. Anybody with teenagers will know this. Have to chivvy her along sometimes to tidy up after herself. So there's been a couple of occasions where she's had friends round in an evening. I've got up in the morning and the house has been a bit of a mess. So it's difficult, isn't it? Even though we are the parent and we're trying to be the adult, sometimes in these circumstances it's difficult not to turn into critical parent. So I might be saying to her, again, the house is a mess. Now, there's an interesting pattern of behaviour that I noticed with my daughter, is that I might start up here and then say, "Look, the place is a mess again. This always happens, etc., etc." And her response would be, "Oh, you would also be critical parent. Oh, you're completely overreacting. I'll get it done. Well, what's your problem?" Now, from that point, for some reason, I slipped into rebellious child. "Yeah, well, if you didn't leave the place in such a mess all the time, I wouldn't be going on at you." And this happened a few times before I thought, wait, look at this. We're actually role reversal here. She's becoming the critical parent because I'm overreacting at the mess that she's made, and I'm actually becoming rebellious child. It has taken me a conscious effort, and it continues to do so, because this is instinctive behaviour, this is learned behaviour. It takes a considerable effort to respond to the content of what's being said and not the tone of voice, but also to focus on the thing that needs to be focused on, which is, you've left the place a mess, can you tidy it up please? It's not about me overreacting, it's not about these other things, it's about the house being in a bit of a mess, which is her responsibility to tidy up. So watch out for this. What will trigger you to move away from that adult, neutral, assertive position into something else that might not be helpful? This model, as I've said, is called Transactional Analysis. It was devised by Eric Byrne. It's hugely impactful if you can recognise these patterns of behaviour within your own workplace, within your own life, recognise them and learn to do something about them.